presentation from the Historic Preservation Commission Chair, Peter Elder, who would like to present to us some information regarding their New York Forward proposal.
Well, I want to thank you all for allowing me to be here tonight, and have a good evening. And the Historic Preservation Commission has been meeting the last couple of months about the New York State Board grant when it came up, trying to think of ways that we might be able to apply for small project grants. We had a list of 4 items that we came to, but really 2 of them stood out. The first one that you'll see in your packet was a idea to replicate and rebuild the Women Christian Temperance Movement's monument that used to be, ironically, about where Brooks is right now. That is and it was, no one seems to know exactly what happened to it. And as you can see in your packet, it was a really beautiful monument. It was actually a fountain, and you'll probably read some histories about that, about there was a fountain on, traditionally in the middle of Main Street, even when the town was formed before there was a village. So this was sort of a callback to that when it was put in. Then apparently people lost track of it, and we really don't know what happened to it. But what we'd like to do is propose a small project that would allow us to rebuild it, reinstall it, and make it a fountain again. We did the best we could with doing some broad estimates of the grant. Obviously, I'm on the grant committee, and obviously we can, as a member of the committee, we can actually ask for a clarification of the grants, and we may actually ask the Historic Preservation Commission to give us even pin down a better number, but that's a generalized number that we were thinking of. That $35,000 number is based on the idea that we might either go with a cast iron again, or we might, I said 35, I meant 30, I'm sorry. We might either go with the cast iron as it was when it was built, or we could do something a little different. My thought was to try to look at some durability issues here. It's possible one of the reasons why it didn't survive until the present day is because it wasn't durable, and we want to have something that will last. We thought about a couple of locations. We settled on the idea of having it out in front of this room, but Carl was just bringing up we could put it down at the Pocket Park there on between the Expressway and North Avenue, and that's another great spot. So we're open to some ideas there as well. We wanted to just make sure that there was ability for people to see it in a different place in the village, because we talked a lot about having a walkable community, and this would be one of those things that people could, walk past, and it's a fountain. Notice a couple of things about this fountain which are kind of interesting. Is that one, it has a major basin that you can see there. And you also see that little basin at the bottom? Hypothetically speaking, we think that, and there's some language on this, that might have been there for smaller animals like dogs or something like that to be able to use too. So it had sort of a multi-purpose idea way before its time. The Women's Christian Temperance is actually still a ground. I looked it up today. It's got a website. So the union has about 5,000 current members. It was formed in 1874. When the village put this in, it was, 35 years old or something. So it's still there though. And I found the email address for the president, and one of my intentions would be if you approve this and it gets approved by the grant committee, so there's a lot of ifs in there, we could actually utilize their talents as well, trying to see if we can get a good design for this from them, and or just invite them up here, which would be kind of neat as well. So New York State still has a chapter for the Women's Christian Temperance Union, so it does connect into a lot of good history and some contemporary people as well. So that was our first project. Our second project that we asked to support would be historic street signs, which we've been tossing around for a couple of years, believe it or not, but it's an expensive project. And we didn't want to ask the village to bear the burden of that, but if we can get the grant to bear the burden, what would happen is we'd be looking at replacing the signs in the older area of the village starting off. We originally had it as a phased project, but there's not necessarily a reason to do that. This kind of thing, we might be able to put them up at one time, but it is a big project. Some villages have these signs. For instance, Pittsford has different signs in the village and historic areas than they do anywhere else in the town. It does kind of mark off that area. As you know, Webster does not have an historic preservation district, and that's fine, but it would allow us to have some way to provide a clue to people that you're coming into older homes like mine or Gerald's, so that they know, or Carl, so they all know, or Judy, so they all know we're there. So I think that was our second project that we were requesting. We like to try to keep the village guys from having to do a lot of the work. which is one of the reasons why we tried to kind of bump up the numbers to allow for some extra installation. But again, we might be able to tweak those numbers, see if we can not have Jake have to be the project manager of these when it actually comes through. So the reason I'm here tonight is because, while we can make all these plans, we can't actually fund them. So we would need the village board to kind of allow me tonight, either give me your tacit approval to put the projects in or take a motion or whatever you feel comfortable with, so I could send them the projects in by email tonight. The deadline is tomorrow. The municipality, the village, has a zero match on this grant according to the rules we set up in the board grant. So the village would have to put out the money ahead of time, and then we get 100% reimbursement on the back side. So Carly asked about that, and that's definitely one of the great parts about having the village be involved in it. So I think that was about all I had. Anybody have any questions?
Do you have a picture of the proposed new sign?
I have one picture on your copy.
This thing that says center?
Yeah, that was a possibility. That was a brown one. The Pittsford ones are, well,
Looks pretty plain to be.
yeah, so actually, I don't, one of you emailed me and asked me about this, so here's so what we propose to do maybe is, again, we don't really know we're gonna get the grant, so Don, I don't disagree with you, but what we were thinking about doing is having like a forum, having the residents give us some input on what colors they would like to see for those historic signs, so it wouldn't be just historic preservation doing it, but rather getting some input. So it might be different colors. The ones in Pittsburgh are white but with black lettering, but they're on this really neat bordering, like there's this neat border to it. So they could just be white with black letters and a very cool looking sign to do it, or it could be a different color. It could be dark green. That came up in our meetings as well. So that is just simply a sample of what it might look like, not to say what it will look like.
Might I suggest before the forum that you and I get together and look at the MUTCD and the New York supplement to the MUTCD, because that specifically lays out signs for historic areas or districts and things like that, and there's parameters that they have in there.
Perfect.
No,
Love to.
It's great.
Yeah, I think we just want to make sure we have all the different parties interested in trying to get this done, and obviously get it done in a way that works, is complying with the law, and also lets us have some identity to that section of the village. So
And then you got phase 1 and phase 2, but it looks like the 30 signs is for both phase 1 and phase 2.
it is, and
So it's really not phase 1 and phase 2.
not necessarily. We don't have to, because we thought we would never be able to do it in one phase. So the original plan was to have
Okay,
two
so
phases. So that's
something old.
just something old, but at least it gives you an idea of where they would be, which is the reason why I included it in the packet.
But the yellow stars and the green stars, the
Right.
signs would all look the same?
They would all look the same.
Okay.
But we never thought like I said, we never thought we could do it all at one time. So we were basically trying to say, well, we would cut the baby in half here and have one phase and then ask the village for money for the second phase, but now if we can get it all at the same time, that would even be better. I mean, it's gonna take time to put them all up, but that's what you can see, but that shows you the map of where they would be. And they even go down to like Kircher and Baker, because the houses in there are relatively old too, so. In fact, some of the oldest houses are on Baker, so.
Kircher and North Avenue?
Yeah, well, we didn't specifically deal with the ones along the state routes, because we weren't sure, and Jake, that's one of the reasons we have to talk to you obviously about this. We weren't confident we could adjust those signs because they're sitting on state roads, so that's going to be something we'll have to look at. So we might not get their permission. I can understand. I can see them not getting their permission. So that's. Anybody else have any questions?
Now, I'm wondering if we can piggyback that into the signage that we talked about, east-west coming in, those signs you can't, it says village, they're all faded, we talked about it.
I think that's part of one of the public projects is wayfinding stuff and include those signs. That's one that Matt's
Good.
to talk about.
Yeah. So the village is putting in a fairly substantial bumper. I think they're putting in one or two projects. Is that right, Jake? A couple of projects.
I believe at least 2, 3.
2 or 3. Okay.
There was some discussion on the correct approach, whether it's kind of lumped together with a small project thing or the individual project, and then there's some, and I know there's a discussion from the public art ones. Are those aspects of larger projects or standalone projects on their own too? So
Okay. So the village is going to be doing something as well, so this would just be another, in effect, it's another village, 2 more village projects, but they're specifically HPC oriented. So that's why we decided to go this direction. Again, they fit into a lot of that, they fit in pretty well to the overall design of what the foreground is about. One's a public art, which is perfect, and the other one is a wayfinding kind of thing, and that's also right in there. So they work as far as the criteria for the grant. We just have to cross our fingers and make sure that we get enough applications for small project grants so they actually can be funded. So, and as I'm hearing it right now, there's going to be quite a few small project grants putting in, projects being put in. So.
Peter, I have a question. Have you seen an example is there an example in any village you know of signage that in fact had something on it?
Yes, the one I saw that was most evident was Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And they do. They have actually separate signs for their village streets, which are almost the entire village is a historic district. So when you go from the town, they're green with white letters, and the village they're white with a different kind of border. The ones in the town are very standard. When you come to the village, they're white with this different kind of border and with black letters. Which I didn't really like those too much, but I mean I could see they look nice. But our colors in the village are green and yellow, so we could even do a green background with white letters, or a green background with yellow letters, however it works out. But that's why we're hoping to get input when we didn't want to jump the gun on this because we don't even know if we're going to get a grant. But once we have it, we would be in a much better position to get input on what would be happening.
No green and yellow.
We want to be.
So let's start running cheese heads.
Yeah, we don't have to do it. I'm just saying, I'm not saying we would do green and yellow, I'm just saying we just need to get input to see what colors you want. Yeah.
Do they have a border of some kind? You know, here's the sign, the street, but there's some kind of a decorative border.
Yeah, there are some of those that are a little more expensive. So I didn't put that in here, but again, we might be able to adjust the cost, or maybe we can use some funds that the village has from the Parks Fund or something to supplement some of this as well if it doesn't come out that way. So I think we're trying to be as flexible as possible with this, and we didn't want to have the guys have to install them. Although again, if that's what ends up happening, we can use the village guys to put the tops of the sign. The whole would stay the same. It's just the top that changes.
Thanks.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Is it?
Are you looking for an answer from us?
Yes, is it okay to, well, the one reason it's tonight is because they have to be done by tomorrow. I'm not gonna submit them to the village hall because I don't want to give more work to Heather, so I'm just gonna email them in. But if,
This week.
so that's why I was hoping maybe you could give me your blessing tonight, and then I will move forward this evening and send them in on the email address. So, and thank you.
So there's a record of it, practically.
Yes.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
Peter, if it's easier for you, you can just drop it off. We really don't have to do much with it.
Okay,
Then
Either
we'll
way.
pick it up on Monday, so
okay,
whatever's easier for you.
all right.
But there was a bit of leeway, I think, with in the public versus the private. All of the private, requests are due tomorrow.
Mhm.
But the public, there's a little bit more grace period to develop.
Oh,
I haven't heard
I didn't, you may have better information than we do, but.
that.
Anyway, because I don't think we're necessarily ready, but we might be. Jake may have put it together, but I don't know.
Oh, you mean the villages projects? Okay. Oh, no, I had to ask them.
You can do that offline.
Okay.
Well, we need to give Peter the okay, right?
Yes, Daryl is for a motion. If we stop bothering him, so he can spit it out.
I guess we would stand behind this.
Huh?
We would stand behind this, as well as we're not necessarily funding it.
No.
Do I have a motion to stand behind the Historic Preservation Commission's proposal to move forward regarding both signs and the placement of a historic monument?
All right, good with that, Don?
I'll second.
Stand behind. Or does it have to be more?
I'm not sure what's aimed behind it.
Yeah.
We
Why don't you
would,
just take a resolution to authorize the Historic Preservation Commission to submit two great proposals, one for street signs and one for the replica of the women's temperance dump.
That is-
Yeah, that makes a little more sense.
well, that is the motion.
What he said. Yeah, what he said. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thanks, Tom. But we still stand behind you.
Thank you.
Peter, the pocket park that I talked about, that's on East Main Street, in between the bank and the dentist there. That little pocket park that's right next to the bank over here.
Oh, so you mean on East Main?
East
Not,
Main.
not the one down on North Avenue?
No, the one on East
Oh,
Main. right
okay.
there.
All right, that's not bad
Right on top
either.
of a water pump there.
That's pretty close to Four
Yeah.
Corners as well. We were trying to keep it somewhat close, that's a good spot too, so, okay.
I like that.
All right, that's a good spot. We do
And it's
need more,
protected there.
we do need more on East Main, so that's not a bad spot. But anyways, I interrupted your motion, so I'm sorry.
Trustee Lancy?
Yeah, I'm sure. I think,
Trustee Belkane?
sure.
Trustee Lauer?
What?
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.